in. I see we have Joel Mueller. Joel, if you could unmute, confirm that is your name, and let me know who you're representing here today.
Yeah, this is Joel. I'm the general contractor that's planning to do the project. I did not do the plans, but I've been part of the process.
Okay, great. Welcome. And Mr. Mueller, are you expecting anyone else to join us here on the applicant owner side?
Yes, the one of the owners of the home is Florence DeWitt. She should be joining us for this.
Okay. Would you like to wait to begin the hearing until she is here, or do you want to get started and I can bring her in when she arrives?
Yeah, we can just go ahead and get started. They're on vacation right now, so she might just be having issues getting in.
Okay, sure. I see
we're just having fun.
What's that?
I said if she's on vacation, she could just be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, right.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So we also have Trey Sheldon from the zoning department. Welcome, Trey.
Thank you, David.
And okay, let's go ahead and get going. I need to read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the August 30th, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Case before us today is case number ZH20230135. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they'd have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. In the event that, I'll give Trey Sheldon an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. And then in the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that argument in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, just need to get everybody sworn in. So if you intend on providing testimony here today, if you could unmute, I need you to raise your right hand to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see, Mr. Mueller, are you ready to proceed?
Yes.
All right, floor is yours.
So it's a pretty simple adjustment that actually requires quite a lot of work for this project. So they have the homeowner has an existing 2-level terrace on the back of the house. They did purchase 2 plots, which we've actually condensed into 1 plot. I believe that was earlier this year. And they want to extend that out. It does overlook the river. There's a parking lot behind their property, and then there's the river right there. There's about 5 houses that are all in a row. I believe they're all the same builder. They're very similar in style. So they want to have a little bit more living space on that terrace. So that's why they want to add some feet to the length or the rear of the property. And that's where the variant, or that's why we're here for the variance, is because it does encroach on the setbacks that are required. Beyond that, it's going to keep the same style. Looking at the neighbor's house, there are 3 of them that have this same style with the terraces on the back. 2 of them are an arched terrace. This one is being one of those. When you look at if you actually just sight down, just visually down the houses, this one actually does sit back. Actually, all of them kind of set back further than the one on the corner. So we're thinking that as far as the actual terrace that we're talking about, when it bumps out, even though it is going to encroach on the setbacks that were required, it's not going to actually stick further out than any of the other houses that are lined up right there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So to that point, will it interfere with the view from the neighboring property owner at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
And that was, I'm not sure if you're looking at it, but we do actually have both of the neighbors, one on either side. We have their testimony or a signed letter from them that says that they are in agreement with the proposal.
Right. Yep. I did notice that. Okay. All right. And what's the existing rear setback for the decks?
Let me look at that, because again, that was something that changed quite a bit from the beginning of the plan. I believe the existing setback is actually already negative into what the setback is.
Right. So if the new setback's going to be 20 feet, 4 inches, you're asking for 4 feet of relief. Is that right?
That's correct.
So to
Yes.
be,
Yes. Sorry, yeah.
so existing is 20, approximately 24. 24, or I'm sorry, other way, right?
But that's right. The existing is about 24. Sorry to interrupt. When
No,
I
thank you.
when I speak
Thank you.
more fully, I can explain some of the background on this development too, David, and I think it'll help clarify
Sure.
that.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Mueller, anything else?
No, that's pretty much the scope of the work right there, as far as zoning goes.
Yep. Trey?
Yeah, just by way of background, so these are kind of unusual lots, and the current subdivision rules probably wouldn't have allowed this to happen, but at the time, if you look on the larger, Cage's image that I have, like figure 2 in my figure 2 on my staff report, you'll see that all these have kind of smaller panhandles than would current subdivision regulations would allow. You can see they aren't of the width that would be required for a panhandle, like currently. But this was all approved by the Planning Commission back in the day when these were first parceled out for development. So that's one thing that's kind of unique about them, is that they're, sort of non-conforming. I mean, they were approved by Planning Commission, but they wouldn't conform to current subdivision regs. The other thing that's worth pointing out, David, is that RMX zoning would only requires a 10-foot front yard setback and a 30-foot rear yard setback. But the way these were presented, I think that the Planning Commission, and as I believe they were all going to be similar, which they are, and they're all constructed with much. If you consider the panhandles to be the frontage, then for example, the subject parcel here's got about a 30-foot setback. If I'm correct about that, Joel, it's got about a 30-foot front yard setback, and only 10 feet was required. So I think these were all built so they were kind of copacetic with one another as far as the view west toward the city up the river. That's the way I kind of view it. That must be why it was laid out that way, because all of them could have been snugged up. It also allows them to each have a decent driveway space instead of only 10 feet. But technically speaking, where the driveways are, instead of like the subject property having 30 feet from the front they would only be required to have 10, in which case they would have had all kinds of room on the back. It would have had a 40 or 50 foot rear yard, but that's not how it was laid out with the overall master plan. And the homes, I believe, are being built to the north too, as that part gets completed for the whole project. Anyhow, as you both noted, the neighbors on each side have technically the neighbor to the east is on a different street that comes in, but these are all lined up, and they are clearly the two most affected properties as far as any kind of adverse effects, and they're both recommending approval. I did note that this is fairly consistent with the other homes. Quickly highlight that. yeah, the other street is 20, the other address is 249 St. Peter's Street to the right. I would note that it would be, it would be roughly in line with the terraces on the adjacent property to the east at 249 St. Peter's, probably back a little bit. Joel could probably speak to that in his summation at the end, but I think it'll be back a little bit, but at line 249. I did want to notice that technically this is the only parcel that's consolidated. All the other parcels aren't consolidated, so all of those technically, by the letter of the kind of the letter of the code, they have much smaller setbacks, actually rear yard setbacks technically, because they haven't consolidated smaller parcels to the rear. Even with that, even if you consider those setbacks as like lots of record, if you consider those separate parcels on the other properties, the deck at 22901 Corbin Park Court would have approximately the same rear setback as the proposed, and the decks at 2905 Corbin Park Court, the decks there have a setback of about 16.5 feet, and the covered porches of 247 St. Peter's Street have a rear setback of approximately 17 feet. So they actually have less, they actually have a smaller setback than what's being requested here, even with the additional space. That's in the part about the substantial property right. That's in the prong of the variance test regarding substantial property right. So I thought that was quite relevant here, because other properties simply have a smaller setback than this one, and that combined with the neighbors, combined with the unusual subdivision thing to begin with, where they have 30-foot front yards and they only required 10. And lastly, the fact that the two neighbors that would be most affected are on board, I thought it was a reasonable request.
Okay, thanks, Trey. Anything else?
I don't think so. I hope that was satisfactory background on the subdivision part of it, because it's just unique how it was set up. I think it was set up to have these things staggered so they, have approximately the same setback and all have a diagonal, kind of an oblique or diagonal view out to the river, which they all still will and do. And I think that objective is still met here. I think that explains why they probably, they just probably want an adequate driveway. So when they developed them, they popped them out, 30 feet front yard instead of the required 10.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thanks, Trey. Mr. Mueller, anything in response to that?
No, that's essentially what one of the conversations was with the architect when we were designing this. Excuse me, was that it did look like they basically flipped the front and the back setbacks essentially when they were doing the original layout, which was, I believe, within the past 10 years was when those houses were built, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Sure. Okay. Anything in closing or otherwise before we adjourn?
I don't have anything.
Okay. So we'll leave it at that then. I know here. So yeah, I haven't had a chance to review the application materials on this, and I am familiar with this development. I feel like I've worked on a few different cases in and around this area. So based on all of that, and based on the staff report and the testimony that I've heard here today, I'm going to approve the application. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. That typically takes about 2 weeks. As soon as I finish that, I put it into a PDF and I email it to I'll email it to both you and Trey, Mr. Mueller. As soon as you have that, Trey can approve the zoning on his end, and hopefully you can move forward. If you have any questions about the process or like a status update on the written decision, feel free to just reach out to me directly. Okay. Any questions now?
I don't. Well, actually, I do. Come to think of it, Trey. Once in 2 weeks, once you get that written notification, is that a typical another like 2 week wait period to hear back from you?
Trey, that was. I think Trey can approve it right away.
Okay.
More or less.
Just want to.
As soon as David's formal decision comes out, I can sign up on the permit.
Okay, I only asked that because I'm not in any rush. This has been a longer process, but I know that the homeowner is anxious, and so keeping them up to date on what that realistic timeline is.
Yeah, I mean,
is
I'll be in
important.
town. The only time I'm gone is next Friday out of town, and I know with David's workload, he's probably not gonna have this thing, done, a week. Unless it comes in on next Friday, unless the decision comes out next Friday, I'm otherwise here, and I can approve it right away within 24 hours of, of receiving the decision. But then, within one business day. So if he gets the decision out at 3 o'clock on a Thursday or something, I'll approve it on Friday morning.
Sounds good.
I'll get it to you as soon as I can. We are losing a day with the holiday next week too, and so 2 weeks is about right. But like I said, it's no problem if you want to reach out to me at any time, whether it's before 2 weeks or after. If you haven't received the decision, I'll let you know where I'm at and give you an update. It's just a backlog of a bunch of different hearings this summer, so just trying to work through those as quickly as I can. But yeah, no problem.
Like I said,
I'm not providing an update. Yeah,
I'm not in any real rush. I just want to make sure the homeowner has realistic expectations. Once we get that approval, we still have to go through a few things. I'm not sure if the building permit has been approved yet or not on that either. So that's another process that we have to go through still, I believe.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks again for your time, your testimony. Good luck on the project. Hope everything goes well. And we are adjourned. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.